Before diving into this incredible story, remember to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Here, every story has something to say, and you won't want to miss a single one. The luxury store, Luxe and Elegance, shimmered in the autumn sunlight. The pristine windows displayed dresses in silky fabrics, exquisitely crafted leather handbags, and sparkling jewelry. The air was fragrant with a subtle blend of lavender and vanilla, and the quiet click of heels on marble created an almost hypnotic atmosphere. 23-year-old Amy Johnson pushed open the door with a slight hesitation. Her eyes shone with a shy but determined curiosity. She wasn't rich, but she had learned to appreciate beautiful things, even if only for a moment. Her attention fell upon a midnight blue dress that seemed to have been made for her. Suddenly, a sharp voice broke the calm. "I think you should leave the store immediately." Amy froze. Before her stood a white woman in her 50s, ostentatiously dressed, her chin raised as if to impose her will on the whole world. Her gaze was hard, filled with misplaced conviction, and her tone echoed throughout the store. The employees exchanged awkward glances while the customer continued to stare at Amy with icy intensity. Amy felt a burning sensation of humiliation rise in her chest, but she tried to remain calm. I just came to watch," she replied softly, her voice trembling but firm. The customer raised her eyebrows, as if those words were an unbearable insult. She took a step forward, but before the situation could escalate, the assistant manager intervened, attempting to calm tempers. What this woman didn't know was that Amy wasn't just a customer. Her father, Marcus Johnson, was the visionary and feared CEO of the Luxe and Elegance chain of stores, a man respected worldwide for his success and influence. Every store in the chain, every decision, every employee was under his authority. In this boutique bathed in light and luxury, arrogance would soon encounter a reality that no amount of wealth or social status could protect. And on that day, the humiliation of a young woman would become the prelude to an unexpected revenge, where power and justice would intertwine in the most surprising way. Amy Johnson froze for a moment, her hands nervously clutching her bag. The customer, Mrs. Collins, crossed her arms and cast a disdainful glance around her, as if asking the shop employees to do her dirty work. "I told you to leave," she repeated, colder and more authoritarian than ever. The deputy director, a man in a gray suit named Peter, approached cautiously. "Madam, please, it's not necessary to." But Mrs. Collins interrupted her, her tone cutting. "I pay for this store, and I don't want to see this person here." Amy felt anger rising, but above all, shame. She lowered her eyes, ready to leave, when the voice of an employee behind the counter stopped her. "Wait, Amy is one of the best customers in the loyalty program." Mrs. Collins sneered. "Loyalty program? Doesn't matter. I decide who gets to stay here." At that moment, Amy felt a shiver run through her. She knew her reaction had to be deliberate. Rather than answer, she took out her phone and dialed a number. The authoritative voice of her father, Marcus Johnson, immediately rang out on the other end of the line. "Amy? What's going on?" Amy took a deep breath. "Dad, there's a woman here, she's asking me to leave, just because I'm black." Marcus remained silent for a moment, his jaw clenching. Then he replied calmly, but with an intensity that left no room for doubt. "Stay here. Don't move. I'll take care of it." A few minutes later, an elegant man in a perfectly tailored suit entered the store. It was Marcus Johnson, the chain's respected CEO. His gaze swept the shop confidently, and when it met Mrs. Collins's, a slight, cool smile played on his lips. "Hello, Mrs. Collins," he said, his voice low but full of authority. "I believe we have a misunderstanding that needs to be clarified." Mrs. Collins paled slightly, recognizing the man before her. But her pride prevented her from lowering her eyes. I didn't know that," she began, but Marcus interrupted her with an icy smile. "You didn't know? That's surprising. You're in my store, and I'm the CEO." The other customers, who had remained silent witnesses until then, turned to observe the scene. There was complete silence. Amy felt a mixture of pride and relief wash over her. This moment, she thought, marked the beginning of something greater than she could ever have imagined, the confrontation between arrogance and power, between fear and justice. Mrs. Collins trembled slightly, her face frozen in a mixture of anger and fear. She couldn't believe that the man she had ignored or scorned was none other than Marcus Johnson, the CEO of the store she had frequented for years. The silence in the shop was almost oppressive, each customer watching the scene as if it were a spectacle they would never forget. Marcus approached slowly, each step echoing on the marble floor. His gaze remained fixed on Mrs. Collins, but he showed neither anger nor impatience. Only a formidable calm, that of someone who knew exactly what he was going to do. "I understand," he said finally, his voice calm but firm, "you thought you could humiliate a customer without consequences. You were wrong." Mrs. Collins stammered. I didn't mean to, it's just." "Just what?" interrupted Marcus, in a curt tone. "Didn't you know she was my daughter? That I personally supervise this store and all the others in the chain?" Mrs. Collins' cheeks flushed red. She stammered out an apology, but Marcus didn't give her time to elaborate further. "Starting today," he continued, his gaze sweeping over the employees, "you are no longer allowed to enter any of our stores. And I will make sure that all staff are informed." The employees nodded in agreement, some trying to hide their satisfaction. Amy, meanwhile, felt a wave of relief and pride wash over her. For the first time since the incident, she felt protected and valued. But Marcus wasn't finished. He addressed Amy, a slight smile softening his features. "Amy, I'm proud of how you kept your composure. No one deserves what you went through today." Then, as if to seal the moment, he took out his phone and made a quick call. A few moments later, the head of security for all the chain stores confirmed that he had received his instructions. Mrs. Collins would be banned from every store from that day forward. Amy felt a strange satisfaction. It wasn't just a victory against personal humiliation, it was a reminder that power and justice could be allied against arrogance and discrimination. As Marcus and Amy left the store, hand in hand, Amy knew this was only the beginning. The world, she thought, could be cruel and unfair, but sometimes, justice arrived in the most unexpected ways. The next morning, Mrs. Collins's name was already circulating in the company corridors. The employees, still reeling from the previous day's events, whispered amongst themselves. Some chuckled softly, recalling Marcus's pride in the face of the customer's arrogance, while others shook their heads, astonished by the CEO's swift and effective response. Mrs. Collins awoke with a strange feeling. Shame, anger, and frustration swirled in her mind. She had believed that her social status and wealth gave her absolute power. But now she faced reality. True power is not measured by money, but by respect and justice. She tried going to another store in the chain, hoping no one would notice her identity. But no sooner had she crossed the threshold than a cold-looking employee recognized her and stopped her politely but firmly. "Sorry, Miss Collins, but you are no longer permitted in our stores." Mrs. Collins' cheeks flushed red. She stammered a few words of apology, but the employee shook his head and remained unmoved. It was a brutal shock to her. For the first time in her life, she had no control whatsoever. Meanwhile, Amy felt lighter than ever. Every day, she visited her favorite shops without fear, observing how the business thrived under her father's watchful eye. The employees, inspired by Marcus's gesture, seemed more confident and united. Amy realized that sometimes, courage simply meant remaining calm and dignified in the face of injustice. However, Marcus knew that this affair would not be limited to a simple humiliation for Mrs. Collins. He wanted the event to serve as a lesson for everyone, that arrogance, discrimination, and contempt could have real and lasting consequences. One evening, as Amy was returning home, she found an unexpected message on her phone. It was an invitation to a charity event organized by the company's CEO, Marcus. The message simply read, "Come with me tonight. I want you to see something." Amy felt a mixture of curiosity and apprehension. She didn't yet know that this evening would reveal just how spectacularly power and justice could manifest themselves, and that Mrs. Collins was about to receive a lesson she would never forget. The grand hall of the charity gala was decorated with rare elegance. Sparkling chandeliers, tables covered with immaculate white tablecloths, and crystal glasses, everything exuded prestige and power. The guests, dressed in their finest attire, chatted politely, unaware that this evening would mark an unexpected turning point for some. Amy entered beside her father, Marcus Johnson, who smiled gently at her. She felt her heart beat faster, torn between excitement and nervousness. Marcus whispered in her ear. "Don't worry, Amy. Tonight, you'll see that sometimes justice takes unexpected forms." As they took their seats near the stage, a murmur rippled through the audience. Mrs. Collins had just entered, elegant but nervous, aware that this time, everyone knew who she was. Her face tightened when she saw Marcus and Amy, sitting in the front row, beaming and confident. Marcus took the microphone and calmly began his speech. He spoke about the importance of respect, equality, and dignity, emphasizing the values that every employee and customer should share. Each word resonated powerfully in the room, capturing the attention of all the guests. Then, with a slight, icy smile, he added, "We all sometimes have the temptation to judge someone without knowing their story. But today, I want you to know that our actions have consequences, sometimes greater than we imagine." All eyes turned to Mrs. Collins. The murmurs in the room intensified. The numerous company employees present moved closer and greeted Amy warmly, leaving Mrs. Collins isolated and aware of her loneliness. Marcus concludes. "At Lux and Elegance, we believe that respect and dignity are more important than anything. And those who do not respect them will face the consequences." Mrs. Collins felt her face burn. This wasn't just a private humiliation this time, it was a public lesson, in front of all the employees, customers, and guests. She left the room, head bowed, while Amy felt a mixture of pride and liberation. That night, Amy understood something essential: courage, patience, and justice, when combined, can transform a humiliating situation into a resounding victory. And sometimes, the best revenge is not anger, but the dignity and quiet power of those who know when to act. In the days that followed, Mrs. Collins's reputation was completely transformed. Her attempts to shop at other stores in the chain were systematically blocked. Every employee now knew the story, and every gesture of arrogance or discrimination was closely monitored. The humiliation she had inflicted on Amy had become a public and lasting affront. For her part, Amy felt stronger and more confident than ever. Every visit to one of the chain's stores was now a reminder that courage and dignity can triumph over injustice. She continued to receive messages of support from customers and employees, touched by the calm and determined way her father had acted. Marcus, proud of his daughter, taught her one last lesson that evening. "Amy, you've seen what happens when someone abuses their power or judges others without knowing. But you've also seen that true strength lies in calm, patience, and justice. Revenge doesn't have to be violent or noisy, it can be elegant and powerful, silent but effective." Amy smiled, fully understanding. She now knew that what had happened was not simply a personal victory, it was a message sent to all those who thought they could impose their will through arrogance and discrimination. As for Mrs. Collins, she eventually disappeared from the world of luxury boutiques, but the experience left a deep mark on her. She understood too late that respect and dignity cannot be bought, and that arrogance can lead to irreversible consequences. The store returned to its usual rhythm, bathed in light and success, but the story of Amy and Marcus remained etched in the memory of all who had witnessed that confrontation. A young woman had been protected by her father's subtle justice, and the message was clear: power, when wielded with integrity and discernment, is a far stronger weapon than hatred or arrogance. And so, in the light of the luxury and elegance shop windows, Amy understood that true victory was not revenge itself, but justice that triumphs with dignity.